What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Great League Remix Cup running the 3 Legend ZA starters in their shadow forms with 2 shiny shadows in Meganium and Feraligatr, as well as the double buffed Ember with Ember and Rockslide. Now the current event might seem a bit underwhelming, but one really cool bonus is that you can evolve these Pokemon right now to get their Community Day moves, but not only that, you can also use a regular Charge TM to get these moves, which is something that I feel needs to be offered a lot more often. I mean, the amount of events that we get that feature starter Pokemon where they don't get their Community Day moves is honestly quite ridiculous, so this is definitely a step in the right direction. Now I'm going to be honest, I didn't look into Ember's stats before this, and I didn't realize just how attack weighted it is. It actually has an identical attack stat to Shadow Scizor, so you will see some questionable no-shield decisions in some of these battles, but of course that also means you're going to see some insane damage output with those very fast-paced Blast Burns and Rock Slides. I only did 4 sets with this team, but I was able to regain around 200 elo, getting 16 wins, 3 losses, and a tie. With that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. In terms of aesthetics, what do you think is the least exciting shiny shadow Pokemon that is currently in Pokemon Go? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Starting into the first battle, leading Shadow Ember into Gudrus. Of course, not an ideal matchup for me. I am going to hit for resisted damage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw 4 Embers, look to make a swap, and catch the Charge Move onto Meganium. Now, the reason I don't swap into Feraligatr, even though it is my safe swap, is if the opponent doesn't throw straight away, of course, I risk getting hit by either a Thunder Punch or a Power Whip, neither of which will be ideal for Feraligatr, so I swap into Meganium. Luckily for me, the opponent doesn't have a hard response. They come in with Wigglytuff, but shiny Shadow Meganium not done yet, able to reach a second Frenzy Plant and actually able to flip switch advantage. Now I swap out straight away as the opponent comes in with a Jellicent, and you see my Feraligatr is on Crunch. That was basically just because I got it from my first TM usage. I originally had Hydro Pump, which of course you don't really want. Crunch is going to be great in this matchup as it will get the KO, and of course Ice Beam would be better here. However, Crunch is still fine. However, I'm actually going to go for a bait here with the Hydro Cannon, grab the final shield. You can see I'm clicking on Crunch, but I did actually throw a Hydro Cannon first, so unfortunately I am stuck throwing Hydro Cannon, but I grabbed the final shield anyways, and at this point it's going to be game over. I can come back in with the Ember. I was just one away from the Rock Slide, non-stab, but it gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent there, into the next battle. We're going to see Shadow Ember into Diggersby. So, of course, not a great matchup for me, but I can actually stay in initially. I will outpace them to a Blast Burn before they reach a potential Scorching Sands, and that does huge damage. I'm now going to overfarm. I'm able to make a catch onto my Feraligatr, which is ideal. The opponent is going to full send the Scorching Sands before swapping into a second Normal-type Pokemon, which is quite unfortunate for me as they will come in, of course, with a Furret. Now, I go for Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to grab a shield there. I'm going to come back in with my Shadow Ember. However, I'm actually not that confident that I will be able to tank a Swift, so I will be shielding this, and then I believe there are back-to-back charge moves here, so I'm just going to go straight for Rock Slide. The opponent, if they know their counts here, should be no shielding, but the opponent is going to respect the damage anyways, so at this point I will let Ember go down. Ember actually just barely tanks the Swift, and their final Pokemon is a third Normal-type Pokemon, but it's going to be Wigglytuff. I can go straight for Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant does big damage and actually puts them into perfect Vine Whip farm down range. They come back in with the Furret, and they did just use all their energy, so I can go for 4 Vine Whips, fire off Frenzy Plant number 2, get the KO there, and shiny Shadow Meganium will be sweeping the entire team here, as of course I can just safely shield up the Fire Punch. I could probably commit to a full fast move farm down at this point, but I'm going to play it super safe. I'm just firing off the Frenzy Plant. We take out the Diggersby, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent there into the next battle, and we're going to see a Shadow Golurk in the lead. Now, spoiler alert, this is going to be a Yonkus team, his toxic team that he just released a video on, and wow, what a surprise, Yonkus releasing a toxic team. Who'd have seen that coming? Well, it turns out you kind of, I mean, we all say that, oh, you just tap, 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 you don't really need to think about anything when using a toxic team. Turns out you do need at least a tiny bit of a brain here, because the opponent also has a Wigglytuff in the back. That would have been a much better answer, but I realized as soon as I grab a shield advantage, Meganium is my win condition, and there's just not a lot they can do there. Of course, we've already got a shield advantage. I can fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant is going to grab the final shield. The opponent is going to overfarm a little bit here. Doesn't really make a difference. I can just safely shield up the Shadow Punch, go for 1 more Vine Whip, throwing on good timing. Frenzy Plant will be getting the KO here, and it is going to be a Wigglytuff as the third Pokemon. Pokemon here definitely should have just come in with their Wigglytuff up against my Feraligatr, but we can come in with the Ember. It's going to be game over, so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Shadow Ember into Abomasnow. So, a great lead matchup for me. The opponent is going to stay in just to check the fast move. They see it's Ember and they swap into Air/Mandibuzz. Now, I actually don't have any great answers to Mandibuzz, but we can chip with huge damage from the rock side. Now I'm coming in with my Feraligatr. I can tank a single charge move. They fire off the foul play. That's fine with me. I'm now going to look to overfarm, fire off a Hydro Cannon here just before they reach the next charge move. Hydro Cannon going to be shielded, and they are going to throw straight away. Now, Feraligatr should still be able to reach 2 more charge moves before they can fully farm me down. So again, I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Hydro Cannon on good timing. We get the KO there. If they come back in with Abomasnow, Feraligatr is still going to reach another charge move as I can go straight for Crunch. Crunch gets them fairly low. We can come in with the Ember, and unfortunately for the opponent, Meganium can come in and completely shut them down. The opponent should be farming up to a potential Blizzard, maybe looking to grab my final shield. However, since they don't, I know I can just double no shield this, commit to a full Violet farm down, and it's going to be game over. Of course, Meganium should be losing CMP up against the Abomasnow, but the opponent actually does not throw straight away, so potentially getting one turn bring-in lag, it doesn't make a difference here as I don't need to shield this regardless. I can just come in with the Ember, commit to a full Ember farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Ember into a Mandibuzz. So, once again, this is a little bit of a problematic Pokemon for my team. They are going to be on Air Slash once again. So here, I'm going to farm up, throw a Rock Slide after 7 Embers, making sure to throw it on good timing. It does connect, it does big damage. And now I tried to catch an Aerial Ace, doesn't work out for me, but the opponent is going to be on Foul Play as that second charge move. But now they can come in with more Peko, and unfortunately, that chip damage is going to put me into perfect Thundershock farm down range. The opponent able to get that farm down just before I reach another Hydro Cannon, so they are loaded on energy. I'm going to come in with Meganium. Of course, Meganium can no shield the first charge move. It's not going to do much damage regardless of whether they go for an Aura Sphere or if they go, Aura Wheel, or if they go for a Psychic Fangs. But remember, we do have 2 Pokemon that are weak to the Mandibuzz, and we are now fairly low on both Pokemon here. So at this point, I do have to start shielding. I am in 2 minds whether I commit to a full farm down here or if I do just throw a charge move. The opponent fires off another Aura Wheel, and at this point, the opponent's going to swap into their Jellicent. So honestly, I expected that to be the Mandibuzz, so I do throw straight away, and unfortunately, I don't get a huge farm down there. I then swap out again, thinking it was going to be Mandibuzz coming in, but that is not the case either, and as a result, I'm not quite going to get the Ember farm down. They can come in, get the full farm down, and whilst, yes, I did bank a Frenzy Plant, they've still got a shield in place. So Frenzy Plant gets the KO there, and unfortunately, I will be losing this game as Mandibuzz has another charge move loaded. Aerial Ace gets the KO, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Shadow Ember into Shadow Tyrantrum. So, of course, this is not a great matchup. They are going to double resist the fire damage. And Rock Slide is going to do quite a lot there, but of course, it won't one-shot them. So I do swap into my Feraligatr, can go straight for a Hydro Cannon, and I'm able to grab an early shield advantage. I'm going to shield this, and the opponent's going to full send a Meteor Beam. So respect for running Meteor Beam over Rock Tomb. I'm firing off Hydro Cannon number 2. Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded by the opponent, and I put them into range where Meganium can come in and go for a full farm down. Of course, I'm definitely going to shield whatever they throw here, but they will not be reaching back-to-back moves. So I'm going to shield, they go for another Meteor Beam. We can go for the Vine Whip farm down, and they're going to have a Digger's Beat in the back. So I'm going to fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant is going to connect. All shields are down. It does huge damage, and Meganium should still just barely tank a Fire Punch. Fire Punch gets us fairly low. I'm going to bank a Frenzy Plant, swap, snipe with the Ember. Their final Pokemon is a Nidoqueen. They've got Mud Slap, but we are ahead on energy. We can go straight for Blast Burn. Blast Burn gets the one shot there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. You can see Drapion in the lead. So, Drapion is a little bit tricky for this team as well. Of course, Arctel spam is real. They will actually outpace me to those charge moves before I can even reach Rock Slides. They're going to overfarm here. I don't want to throw straight away. I'm now going to go for a Rock Slide. I believe they are 1 away, so I will try and catch the next charge move onto Feraligatr, but it does not work out. The opponent likely overfarming would have thrown after 1 more Poison Sting, but now they can full send the Crunch. Crunch is, of course, going to do decent damage here. I'm firing off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to grab the final shield, and they do throw straight away. So the opponent is going to go for an Aqua Tail. That doesn't quite get the KO, so they do get one more fast move through, which means they should be 3 away from the next Aqua Tail. But we're going to come back in with the Ember. I'm not super confident that Rock Slide will KO, so I will just fully send the Blast Burn. Blast Burn easily takes them out there. They're going to come in with Whiscash, and their final Pokemon is a Clodsire. Now, of course, I've got Earthquake. That's going to hit for super effective damage, but I'm not entirely certain that Earthquake will put them into farm down range, whereas I can just safely go for back-to-back Frenzy Plants. Of course, I'm going to get to back-to-back Frenzy Plants before I get to an Earthquake and a Frenzy Plant, so might as well just play it like this. Frenzy Plant number 2 gets the KO there, and of course, they did do some chip damage with those Poison Stings, but they're never going to put me into range where either a Scald or a Mud Bomb gets the KO, so I outpace them. Frenzy Plant gets the one-shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Arctobax in the lead. So this should actually be a positive matchup for me, as I can go straight for a Rock Slide. Now, they will need to shield this here, as otherwise, Rock Slide gonna get the one shot. I don't really understand that decision, but we're going to come in with our own Feraligatr up against the opposing Feraligatr. They've got a non-shadow, we've got a shiny shadow. They go for a Hydro Cannon, which isn't going to do too much damage here. However, if they do want a double shield, they can commit to a very aggressive Shadow Claw farm down. So the opponent is looking like that's what they're going to do here, as I go for a second Crunch. Crunch number 2 is going to grab the final shield, but I do drop the defense, which is very nice for me. I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter too much, as they will just barely reach back-to-back Ice Beams, but either way, we still will get a full farm down here, but I do need to double shield. Now, the fact they're staying in here means that maybe they're weak to the Meganium in the back. That's actually not the case, but it doesn't really matter. I come in with the Ember here, basically just forcing them to throw, but also getting some chip damage with those Embers, to the point where now, hopefully, Earthquake, super effective, should be enough damage to get the KO here, and Earthquake does get the KO up against the Tinkaton, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Shadow Ember into a Furret. So, we are going to stay in this matchup. Of course, I'm going to resist the fast move damage, and Swift, it's an okay move here. It's not going to do too much damage, or at least that's what I was thinking. But unfortunately, Swift does huge damage there, and it means I actually won't be able to reach back-to-back Blast Burns before they can fully fast move farm me down. So, we full send it the first time. This time, I believe I have to just settle for a Rock Slide, and Rock Slide is, unfortunately, going to be no-shielded, and it doesn't get the KO. But we can come in with Meganium. They've got quite a lot of energy here, so they will fire off one charge move. Swift is going to be no-shielded. They come in with a Wigglytuff, and I have to stay in with Meganium. Of course, I have a little fast move pressure with my Feraligatr. I'm going to continue to stay in here, but I still need the Vine Whips. Otherwise, the Wigglytuff will reach another charge move, so I stay in. I go for 2 more Vine Whips, and unfortunately, that just barely doesn't put them into farm down range. I'm forced to shield this. They go for an Icy Wind. They're debuffing my attack stats, but they're actually going to have a Bug Bite Fortress in the back, so regardless of whether or not they got that charge move off, it doesn't make a difference. Fortress is going to wall the energy from Meganium, as I do not have an Earthquake loaded. Frenzy Plant is double resisted. They can commit to a full farm down. I'm not going to bother throwing. The opponent already has a Rock Tomb loaded. Rock Tomb, of course, takes out Shiny Shadow Meganium, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Ferrothorn in the lead. An amazing matchup for me. They're going to say swap into a Alola Marowak. I'm going to go straight for Rock Slide. I want to see how much damage this does. And Rock Slide does insane damage. Unfortunately, I will have to swap out here. So, potentially, could have just banked the energy, come in with Feraligatr anyways, and it still would have been a great matchup. Whereas now, of course, we've got basically a full health Feraligatr, and they're going to get a ton of farm with the Ferrothorn. But we're going to go for Crunch here, and the opponent will have to throw a charge move. They're going to farm up to close to back-to-back charge moves here. But the opponent goes for a Mirror Shot bait there, which is fine with me. I can no-shield. Of course, that's resisted damage, and Crunch is going to get the KO. Now, they've got Morpeko in the back. I'm in a bit of an awkward situation here where I don't know if I just commit to a full fast move farm down or if I will need to get to 3 charge moves. Of course, Morpeko, very spammy, and they can start going for Psychic Fangs here, which is what they're going to do. But I'm going to shield this up here, and I'm going to farm up to at least back-to-back Frenzy Plants before I consider throwing a charge move. Here, I probably can commit to a farm down, but either way, we're going to stay in with Meganium, fire off the charge move here, and the opponent also committing to that fast move farm down, but I've still got pretty much a full health Ember. We get simultaneous KO, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Jellicent in the lead. I'm going to say swap into Feraligatr. Looks like the opponent is lagging initially there before coming in with a Wigglytuff. Now, that lag is going to be quite important as this will allow me to reach 3 Hydro Cannons before the opponent can commit to a full Charm Farm down. So, Hydro Cannon number 2 grabs the shield here, and now the opponent is going to be forced to throw some energy. Swift gets the KO there. We can come back in with the Ember. I'm going to commit to a full farm down. They will reach another Swift, but that's okay. I should still be able to tank one more Charm and go for a full farm down. But nope, I'm actually not able to do that. That is definitely a mistake. Honestly, I thought we'd get the farm down there. So, big mistake on my end, but they swap back into Jellicent. I don't mind that they're catching here because Frenzy Plant gets the KO. I want to get rid of them before they even get off a charge move. And now, at this point, I realize, of course, they've still got one shield. I might as well just commit to the Earthquake, though, because otherwise, I need 3 Frenzy Plants, which I think is going to be more energy than just 2 Earthquakes. They let the first one go through anyways, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Ember into Diggersby. So, again, not the best matchup for me, but also a matchup that I don't need to swap out of straight away. We can once again go for a Blast Burn, and then eventually I will swap into Feraligatr. Blast Burn connect. It does big damage. We try to make a catch there. Unfortunately, they do not throw straight away, but they do still end up throwing. They go for Scorching Sands. I'm going to go for a Hydro Cannon, but they do make a very nice catch there, catching it onto a Toxapex. However, I'm actually only going to reach a Hydro Cannon and a Crunch anyways, so I needed that damage regardless. But either way, Crunch is going to connect there. Unfortunately, no debuff, but that's okay. Now, we're going to come in with the Shadow Ember, and I am, of course, going to shield the first charge move, and then I'm going to look to over-farm here. I'm going to throw the Rock Slide just before they do reach their next move, because what I don't want to do is basically force a CMP tie, and then allow the opponents to actually shield and get off another Brine. So we get the KO, but their final Pokemon is going to be a Malamar, and this is a little bit tricky for me. I'm going to no-shield this. The opponent is going to go for a Foul Play. Foul Play does decent damage. These side waves are seriously adding up, though. I can fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant is going to grab the first shield. The opponent is now just going to commit to a full farm down, however. Frenzy Plant, number 2, grabs the final shield here, and whilst I am 1 away from a Rock Slide, I could have thrown it. It doesn't really make a difference. Their Diggersby would be outpacing me to a charge move anyways, and so unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. Great lead matchup for me. Unfortunately, they swap into a Shadow Drapion. And again, I don't have a great response here. I'm trying to catch an Aquatail. Does not work out for me. And as a result, if the opponent wants to, they can double shield and they will be able to flip switch advantage, which of course is not ideal. But I'm going to shield my Feraligatr, and of course the opponent going to go for another Crunch there. And now I'm going to over farm and I'm going to go for another Hydro Cannon. So Hydro Cannon number 2 grabs the final shield. The opponent will be flipping switch advantage. However, we do still have a lot of energy on the Ember, so I'm going to come in with the Ember. I'm going to over farm just slightly here. Go for that Rock Slide. Rock Slide will definitely KO a Shadow Drapion from this range. And let's see what their final Pokemon is. They come in with a Diggersby. I'm going to bank a Blast Burn, swap into Meganium, and of course, they're going to have access to Fire Punch. Fire Punch is going to hit for super effective. It does less than half our HP. Here, the opponent does make a catch. However, that's fine with me. Of course, I had to throw there, otherwise they get off the Fire Punch. But now the opponent only has resisted moves to throw as well into my Meganium. So, my switch clock should be coming up soon. All I need to do is bank a charge move, swap into Ember. We've got that Blast Burn already banked as well. So, Blast Burn, double super effective. It gets the KO here, and the opponent needs to throw a charge move to take out the Ember, but we've got a Frenzy Plant loaded on the Meganium, so despite that really nice catch from the opponent, it actually doesn't work out for them in the end, as Frenzy Plant takes out the Diggersby, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Morpeko in the lead. So, this is a little bit awkward for me, of course. I need to align it to my Meganium, but I do have Feraligatr, which is really going to struggle up against Morpeko. So, I'm going to no-shield this. They go for Psychic Fangs. That does big damage there. But the opponent is going to swap into Drifblim, maybe looking to snipe with an Astonish. But we reach the Rock Slide. Rock Slide grabs the shield advantage. Now I can come in with my Feraligatr. Now, the opponent throws straight away. This is not enough energy for a Shadow Ball, meaning either it's an Icy Wind or it's a Mystical electrical fire. Either way, they're both resisted. We can now fire off a Hydro Cannon. I am one away from the second charge move, so if they do end up double shielding, we can still get to another charge move, and Hydro Cannon from this range, despite being debuffed, gets the KO there. I swap out immediately into Meganium, as this is my only Pokemon remaining, basically, so even though, of course, I'm going to switch lock myself, it doesn't really matter here. We are going to see the opponent is going to go for a Psychic Fangs. I'm looking to go for a massive overfarm. Now, I am in two minds once again. Do I commit both shields and then go for a full Vine farm down, or do I eventually throw just before they reach the next Psychic Fangs? I am eventually going to throw here, so we go for Frenzy Plant. We get the KO, but that might be a mistake as they got Fortress, but they are on Volt Switch, so I clear the debuff there, expecting it to be a Bug Bite Fortress. It's actually not, so we can go for the Earthquake, and I should be able to outpace them unless they're running Mirror Shot. But the opponent is running Mirror Shot. They don't get the debuff, but they do outpace me to the next charge move here. But Mirror Shot is not a very good charge move, and as a result, Shiny Shadow Meganium able to tank it. Earthquake gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to put there into possibly the final battle of this video, leading into Malamar, so not great for me as Psywaves are going to hit for super effective. I swap into for Alligator, the opponent looking to try and throw on CMP, but I do not throw straight away, so the opponent goes to Superpower, they dip into Fortress, but that's fine with me. Hydro Cannon is going to connect, they can get the Bug Bite farm down, but they don't get that much energy. So, of course, waiting out the switch shot, coming back in with the Ember, and they don't even reach a Rock Tomb there. Huge for me. They can come back in with the Malamar, and I am going to go for a Rock Slide now. I believe they did overfarm just slightly with the Malamar, so I'm now going to swap out there before throwing the next charge move into my Meganium. Now, I'm expecting another Superpower and dip. This time they don't. They go for Foul Play. Maybe this time they will, so I'm actually going to double shield my Meganium. But nope, they go for double Foul Plays there. We're going to go for Frenzy Plant. They actually make a catch, but they catch onto Diggersby. So Frenzy Plant does huge damage there. I'm now going to look to throw on CMP. Unfortunately, the opponent, Diggersby, is very bulky, so Frenzy Plant didn't quite put them into Vine Whip farm down range. However, it doesn't matter as I grab the final shield. Now I can just swap out, go for the Ember farm down. We come out with a Blast Burn loaded, and this is going to be massive overkill, but of course it will be taking out the Malamar, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.